computer. Okay, you ready?
I'm ready. Here we go. Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Choosing and Tracking Simple Macros. I'm Emily Brown, and I'm here with my great friend, Christine. And we are just going to lay out a pretty straightforward way to get an idea of how many calories you need and how to navigate tracking macros around that. So I'm going to get started with Christine, why don't you start the beginning of it? Sorry.
Okay. I think so many times we hear the frustration of, healthy food. What do I eat for the body that I want? My body composition, whether we're experiencing hormone changes because we can't eat like we did in our 20s, we're frustrated. And I think many times with clients, we find, I just don't know what to eat. I don't know how much of what to eat. And I know even just getting questions like, do I focus on calories? Do I focus on how much protein? Do I focus on not having too much sugar or fiber? What's the baseline? What should I aim for? So I think that's what we wanted to tackle and being really simple and give some great examples tonight.
Yeah, perfect. So this is a follow-up call. So if you haven't watched the first one, we did dive into a lot of the details that lead into this. So if there's anything that you're not understanding, definitely reach out to us or check out that first call. So as a review, we talked about in the last video that a baseline starting point for macronutrient ratio is typically about 40% carbs, 30% protein, and 30% fat. Like we said, this is a baseline starting. Nobody would be injured or have hormonal problems or metabolic issues if they were to follow this. To dial in your own goals more specifically, it might vary from this. Different body types like ectomorph and mesomorph, they can lean in a little bit different ratios, but standardly, this is a great starting point. And then we have just as a baseline starting point for calories, we have a huge range here of 1,500 to 2,000. I think the key that we really wanted to show here was that 1,200 is not included in this. We find oftentimes that many women are really under eating and not fueling their bodies and leading to hormonal problems and metabolic issues that are very difficult to overcome later in life. And so, and the point that I wanted to make on this too is that, if you are here to, looking to lose weight, the way that you need to start off is to eat for the body that you're in. I think that's a lot of times how people get under eating is, they're a certain weight and they think, well, I need to eat less calories than my body needs so that I can lose weight, which can put us in a dangerous situation. So you really need to eat for the body that you're in and incrementally and in safe ways lose that eventually as time goes on.
Mm-hmm. And it's so true because I think we'll talk about deficit, but you're right. Sometimes most women need to refeed, meaning they need to eat what their body needs first and then go into safely some deficit, which we'll talk about. But here's this case study. And since Emily, this is dear and near to your heart because this is you, do you want to just go into like your example for you? Because I think it lends to when it's personal and this is what I do for my body for, what works for me. Why don't you go ahead and share that too?
Yeah, so I'm just using me as an example. I'm 43-year-old female, 5'7", 145 pounds. Right now, I'd say I'm probably about a 150, but typically I'm about 145. And my activity is usually about 90 minutes of weights or CrossFit style type training. I'd say 4 to 5 days a week currently. For a lot of people, that seems like, that is a lot. And for me, relatively, it's not. I used to train much more. And so my calories used to be much higher. And I had to figure this out again, for myself. And it always changes, depending upon how much you're exercising, and stress and all of those things go into it. But this is like the basic thing. And my goal is just to maintain weight and, and lose, a couple pounds here and there, but not to gain. But I do want to still be able to gain strength. And the key part for this one is to not have a strict diet. Like, I don't like to feel like I'm on a diet. And so I want to be able to eat as much as I can possible. So is what it ends up being, and I'll show some calculations after this, but I'm like at about 18 or 1900 calories. And the RMR that I have listed there, that's your resting metabolic rate. That is, this is calculated. I went on a machine, they have them at different places. And my last time that they calculated was about 1350. This is how many calories my body uses at rest.
Mhm.
So this is for me to do nothing. If I were to like lay on the couch all day long, just for my basic body functions to happen, and probably now it's a little bit lower because of my activities lower, but between like 1200 and 1350 calories just for like my brain to function, my body to function. And so I need that many calories just for my body to survive. So the way that this, the carbs break down from the 1800, or the macro, excuse me, breakdown from the 1800 calories is what this is based on, is 100. This is going back to the 40%, 30%, 30%. So 40% carbs is 175 grams, or 700 calories are going to be coming from carbs. Protein is 140 grams. And a lot of times that's based very closely to body weight, like we went over in our first video. And that'll be about 560 calories. And then fat, 60 to 65 grams, which is 550 calories.
Mhm. Awesome.
So yeah, I mean, when I was training a lot, I was at like 2,500 calories a day. So I got a lot more food.
Right.
It took a while to figure it out. So just going through like what a macronutrient, like the prescription of, like, people are like, oh, what are your macros? So throughout the day, like we just said, that if my macros are 175, 140, 60. So the thing is, as I'm starting to figure out my food through the day, and when I'm going to start tracking, which I use an app, I use MyFitnessPal, and I think we'll both start, have some talk about that. So when I do go in and I'm wondering, when do I eat? When do I eat all my food? Like, how do I do that? Is that 40 to 60% of my calories, my macros, my food, my intake is going to be within 4 hours before or after my exercise, depending upon, when I'm exercising, and how that fits into sleep. And to piggyback on that, I want to make sure that I have 90 minutes before bed for digestion so that my body can rest effectively. So those are just some things to take into account. And then, as I'm breaking that down, like, wow, 175 grams of carbs, that sounds like a lot. How does that break out? Well, if I figure, and everybody eats differently, but you can look at how you eat yourself, is that if I'm going to eat I like to eat 3 meals a day, and I typically have 2 snacks. So 3 meals at 400 to 500 calories. I've learned through this process that makes me feel full. Like, it takes that much for me to feel full. Christine, like, I know you have like experience too with like, under eating and like trying to manage weight, like, like, what's your experience with, like under eating, and then how that, what happens later in the day? I know we were just having.
Yeah. So prime example, a client called me on Sunday or actually Monday. And on Sunday, she had lunch Qdoba, and she has struggled with binging and restricting. So depriving and then overeating most of her life. And so she has had a severe like fear of fat. So she looked at the Qdoba chicken you know, it was kind of like buffet style, fix your own plate. And she was like, gosh, I don't know, that chicken probably has too much fat, so I'm only going to get a spoonful. And then she had, like, you know, the lettuce and whatever, and a tiny bit of avocado and 3 chips. And then 2 hours later, she's driving home and she is ravenous and starved. And she goes to King Supers and buys 2 donuts. And because she loves sugar and she loves carbs, but then from that moment on, it was like the wheels came off the bus and she was binging, because she was like, we talked through it. It was, I felt deprived, but I felt like that wasn't a good, healthy meal because the chicken might have been too fat. So we literally went through of what it meant to deprive, really what was a good, healthy balance, you know, in that. And had she done it differently, if she had filled her plate with more protein, a little more extra veggies, a little bit more fat of like the avocado, some pico, salsa, whatever, and not feel guilty for having 3 to 5 chips, she would have bypassed that King Supers and never stopped for donuts.
Yeah, that's so true. Like, I think, you know, our body will eventually demand of us what we don't give to it. And so, you know, and the reason that I break this down like this is so that you can see how much, you know, each meal and how much our body really needs to feel satiated. And we don't want to just necessarily be, the thing I love about macros is that I used to only eat tiny small meals because I was so afraid to eat a big meal. And then I was just eating another small meal and then eating another small meal. And I was just kind of like inching my way through the day, and I was never really satisfied.
Mhm.
And so with this, like, I've gotten to learn that, like, oh, I can have like a nice big meal, you know, and feel like great and go a few hours. And I love to snack. So you can build in as many snacks and, you know, things that you want, but it's really important to see here that the carbs are the first number here. So like in a meal, like you're going to be eating 25 to 50 grams of carbs. So her 3 chips were like maybe 8 grams of carbs or something. So like
Mhm.
eventually, like she went to the store and she got the carbs she needed, you know, from the donut.
Yeah.
But within the donut, like we don't feel good. And then we feel guilty, you know, and it's all those things just because she just didn't know what was in the food. So I love like seeing this, that like, you know, like having the freedom, like, oh wow, I get to like pick 50 grams of carbs for my food or for my meal.
Mhm.
So and I love you can go on to the next page, because here we're talking about quality and quality choices. We get more. Do you want to talk a little bit about this?
Yeah, it's I think the misnomer, kind of like you're saying, if I'm either snacking a little bit throughout the day, kind of mindless, I don't truly realize what's adding up. And yet, or if I think, okay, I'm just going to have one big meal and then not eat, but your body is just demanding more of you later. It's just hard to eat one meal and realizing, you know, you're getting 1,800 calories. It's not going to satisfy you all day long. And that's the thing, even under you know, McDonald's meal, it's like likely to satisfy you for 2, 3 hours, which is very true. Now imagine you're spreading that 1,800 calories over throughout the day. And even in this picture, it's adding salmon and greens and, you know, an egg, a veggie omelet. It's got yogurt and berries, and it's even got some sweets in there. You know, so
I
it's got,
love that this picture has the cookie and the M&Ms. Like I really do. Like that's
yeah,
real life. Because
yeah.
we talked last video about how people say, "Oh, I bet you don't have sweets," or "I bet you don't have desserts." And like, yes, I do. You know, like too
Mhm.
many sometimes, just like everybody. But you know, I understand how it can fit in. So I love that.
Yeah. And I think it's finding and learning what foods satiate you and keep you full longer. If not, you know, like my friend, you're going to run into cravings just to fill that void. Right. And
Yep.
so, and the quality, and we'll talk about nutrient dense, but quality makes a difference, you know, and you can eat more with that. Now, this one you could take a picture of, but it's just looking back at process versus whole. So process, again, most likely that glycemic level is really high. So your blood sugar spikes, you crash a little bit. It's lacking in nutritional value. A lot of the processed foods you think that are packaged that would last for days and days on end. that you find artificial just can be addicting, even because of what's in them, linked to lifestyle diseases and easy to overeat some of these
Yeah,
choices leading
that's
to weight gain. I think that's, Emily and I both think that's the biggest, highlight that last sentence in that section, right?
Yeah, like that's, I know, like I wouldn't, every time I go to Chick-fil-A or something, or you go to Red Robin and they give you endless French fries, like I could eat those French fries every single time they brought it. But if they were bringing me plates of broccoli or like sweet potato, like I'm probably not going to keep overeating that. A, because my body is full with the fiber, and B, it doesn't have all the artificial things that are there to want you to make you crave it.
Yeah. And then you can conversely, the whole food, so loaded with nutrients, fiber, micronutrients, vitamins, minerals, a lot of them mostly having one natural ingredient, satiety, preventing overeating, just improving health and overall. I think that's what we want. We want to live younger, longer, and feel really good and maintain a healthy weight. And so it's learning, it's eating healthy foods. Like once you begin to start eating them, your body will start learning to crave them. So it's sometimes not an overnight thing like, oh, I'm just going to start eating healthy now, but it's just consistent habits it's going to get easier, and your body is just going to switch out of the I would say artificial crazy sugars that your body is addicted to more natural foods that your body start craving. And so on the right side, we just wanted to show you just examples of more breakfast foods, like what would be in one donut, the calories, carb, fat, protein versus protein pancakes or old fashioned oatmeal or one slice of 9-grain seed, whole wheat. What does that look like? And so even I think breaking it down, it's just seeing this is what's helpful. Like I just plug this into MyFitFoods, MyFitnessPal, not MyFitFoods, MyFitnessPal. And you're able to see, oh, okay, in oatmeal, it's calories, it's a lot of carbs, a little less fats and protein. But if I add a scoop of protein into that, it's going to up the protein value of my old fashioned oatmeal and becomes, protein oatmeal. And then realizing avocado, peanut butter, grass-fed butter, all similar calories. The first two similar fat or, and carbs, and then some fat. And then what you see that comes with it and protein. So I think it's just learning, some of these, I mean,
Yeah.
Emily, off the top of your head, it's just because of time, right? Learning.
Yeah, I can almost quote like what carbs are in almost any food group just because I've been doing it so long. But I think one of the good eye openers on this is like the bagel. I feel like there's this like the bagels are the devil, and the bagel, like if you see on here, it's more calories, but compared to the donut, like I could eat 3 donuts and not even like, I mean, easily, like that just like dissolves like sugar, because that's pretty much what it is. But like a bagel, like you can see like there's actually some protein in it. And if you put something on top of it, that's, healthier choice, or just have one, half of one, that it might not be a bad choice. Like it's just a food, and so seeing how that might fit into your diet. I read something today and it just really hit home. It was saying that, and this is so true, I think one of the most filling foods that I've ever had are Brussels sprouts. And Brussels sprouts, like it was saying that you could have 200 calories of Brussels sprouts and feel fuller than if you ate like a 500-calorie Big Mac. And I would vouch for that. Like a Big Mac, like afterwards. I mean, I don't know when the last time I had one, but I don't know if I've ever had one, but like a quarter pound like cheeseburger or something that's just from like fast food with all that white bread, like so you're eating half of the calories and you have way more nutrients. And it's the same thing, like comparing like an apple would be like 100 calories versus like 100 calories of candy. You would feel not full at all, but an apple, you would have the fiber and the nutrients from that. So I think it's really just learning and paying attention. Okay, so how do I lose weight? So weight loss and weight management. So it's key to understand that even maintaining weight, um, you're probably going to be in a calorie deficit, even to maintain weight. If we're trying to maintain a negative energy balance, which is less calories coming in than calories that we're sending out. And since we aren't always exerting the same amount of calories, we just need to, if you're really wanting to maintain and lose, it's really about maintaining a negative energy balance. So being in a calorie deficit. So that means that no matter amount of carbs, whether you're on keto, whether you're intermittent fasting, no matter what you're doing, if you're paleo, if you're low carb, or you're high carb, or you're low fat, or you're high fat, that it's all about consuming less calories than what you're expending. And that's it. It's a math equation. There can be some various hormonal issues or medical or thyroid or some kind of issues that could affect that. But for the general healthy public, we're talking, it's a math equation. So here we are again, we see the resting metabolic rate. And that's the calories that our body uses for basic functions, no activity. The base for your brain to function is 800 calories for anybody. It's like what your brain requires. So you can't be less than that, obviously. And then an intake of less than 1,200 calories would place you in danger of a hormonal or metabolic imbalance. And we talked about that last week. Like if you wanted to touch on something like that real quick, or.
Yeah, I mean, there is so much to I can think back when I was, eating disorder, when I was anorexic, there was so much going on in my body that I ended up in the hospital because I was so deficit for so long, that it changed everything about my mood swings to, the condition of my hair, my nails, my hormones, my all of that, my periods, because of just the lack of calories coming in. And so we don't see sometimes the long-term effects. And so it's just realizing that your body needs that, your brain needs that, it needs fat calories. There's so much to that.
And so this is just a quick point on here, is that 3,500 calories equals 1 pound of fat or just a body weight. And so to gain or lose a pound, you would have to reduce your what you're expending by 3,500 calories to lose a pound. So to lose a pound, they say, a healthy way to do it would be about like a 0.5 pound to 1 pound a week. We suggest that you do it incrementally so it's a sustainable habit. We could all lose 2 pounds in a week if we wanted by starving ourselves, and we could cause hormonal damage. So to do the math in that, like we're talking, it's like 250 calories less each day than what you're exerting.
Oops, sorry.
No, that's okay. So, this is a great place so this is a very simple way to calculate your needed calories. It will it'll give you a little extra calories, but I kind of like that because you can always cut back. But I like people to know that they should be eating food. And the thing is if you're eating quality calories, like blueberry calories are going to affect your body composition differently than donut calories. So if you're a little bit on the higher calories, that's okay as long as you're choosing quality foods. So this is just, it's all about pounds, your body weight in pounds. And so I've used myself as an example on the bottom of it. It breaks it down into your goals up top here. So whether you're weight loss, weight maintenance, or weight gain, and then you're going to multiply your body weight in pounds by these different numbers based on your activity level. So sedentary, moderately active, and very active. So in here, I fall more into the moderately active and weight loss or very active and weight loss. I am around the 14 number.
Mhm.
So down here, you see that I multiplied my weight in pounds by 12 and 14 to give myself a range. So 1740 to 1960, which I showed on the other page, between 18 and 1900 calories. So this is real simple. There are tons of different medical ways to go about finding all these different things, but I found that this one's really easy and it used pounds instead of kilograms.
Yeah, this is a good one. I like this. Yeah. I think this goes back to what Emily said earlier is when you know what your total calories are and you're, 40% carbs, 30% fat, 30% protein, breaking it down. And this is where I feel like that everyone's a little different in the sense that I know some people say, well, do I do intermittent fasting? Like what should my eating window be? Or when should I start eating breakfast? And I think it depends on when am I exercising? When am I waking up? Does I think it does do well to have bigger meals with time in between that your body digests it, that you're, in a sense, you're ready to be eating again versus snacking like a rabbit all throughout the day. It totally makes a difference. And then finding things that are satiating that you're able to. And I always ask people, if you eat lunch and then in 2 hours you're ravenous, you didn't eat enough in your meal. You just didn't eat enough, or you didn't eat enough of nutrient dense foods. And it was something like we talked about, like the Big Mac, that in 2 hours you're starving. So it's not feeding you, right? It's calories. Sadly, it's not empty calorie. Well, it's empty calories in the sense that it's not filling you and providing you and satiating you. So even looking at this protein, fat, carbs, just even some snacks. These are 150 to 300 calories of snacks, 1 cup of 2% Greek yogurt, turkey pepperoni, hummus, slices, cheese stick, medium apple. Looking at where they line up in protein. Nut butter is protein and fat, right? We can't think of almond butter or peanut butter as 100% protein. It's got high fat, but that does satiate. So if it's kind of adding into your fat calories of the day, that's great. Just learning that you're not eating a ton of other fat in other meals, that you're going beyond your 30%. And then protein shake. Yeah. And then other carbs that add up to that.
Yeah, and it could be like any variation. It's like, what do you like? But the thing that and I didn't put calories next to all those, I apologize. But, it was just like whenever I am choosing a snack or a meal, it's like, okay, well, what do I have or what do I want? I'm like, oh, I'm really craving, cheese. Like, okay, so that's mostly fat. It has protein too, which is a bonus, yay. But then I'm probably going to need a little bit more protein, and I'm definitely going to need some carbs. So if I'm just snacking on cheese, like my body is going to, it needs carbs. Like it needs that constant carbs. Like we said in our first video, carbs are the preferred source of our brain and our body. So, I find that if I'm just snacking on nuts or if I'm just snacking on cheese, I tend to overeat, because I'm not giving my body like the full capsule of everything it needs. Like our body wants to be macronutriently like even. So yeah, it can be like, what am I craving? And then, okay, well, what is that missing? And then I just get to like fill in the blanks.
Exactly. I always think this is a good one. Emily mentioned this, that we can eyeball something and like, well, I think this is about a cup or about a teaspoon. And we don't realize, if we're a mom, we're snacking off our kids' plates, and that bite and lick and taste here and there add up, that we're not ever counting and calculating. But there are some things that, to really get a good idea of what we're eating, earlier, some of the calories that we put on, I truly went into MyFitnessPal and put 1 tablespoon of peanut butter, 1 tablespoon of butter. What does that mean? And what does that look like? We just get a better idea when we really weigh and measure our portion sizes, because not all products are not even all products are created equal too.
Yep.
That's
yeah. Yeah, I mean, like 1 tablespoon in my mind is like the silver tablespoon, and it's heaping, and like peanut butter is like mounded high on it. And then
Right.
get out an actual measuring spoon of what a tablespoon looks like. It's a big difference. And you see the calories and fat that are in a tablespoon of peanut butter your like old fashioned one is probably like 3 tablespoons. So it really makes a difference with things like these high density items like peanut butter, avocado, mayonnaise, something like potatoes. That's, you know, a sweet potato. You're like, I don't know, I had some sweet potato, but did I have, you know, half a cup or did I have a cup? Or same thing with like beans, you know, black beans and pinto beans. And then, you know, but I mean, the good news is that not all products are created equal. So you could look at 3 different brands of hummus and get, you know, a wide range of calories and fats. And so, you know, finding the one that meets your needs and that your taste buds that is makes this whole thing, you know, kind of fun. And then there was just something real quick on the side of this is like to get the visual of things. Once you have used scales and measuring cups, I really strongly urge everyone who's going to be tracking to, for 2 to 3 weeks, do it to as be so strict, weigh and measure everything, and you will learn the visual of things and how much it weighs and what's it look like in your hand and what's it look like on your plate and what's it look like when I go to like these French fries versus these French fries versus, and I think like once you do that, it allows you to go out in the world and feel confident. And so this is just the visual like of things like they're saying like the front of your fist is like a half a cup of something. And then they say like a clenched fist here is like 1 cup. And then a lot of times they say the palm is like 3 to 4 ounces. So it's a lot of times like the serving size of a meat, you know, like if you're at a restaurant. And then the thumb is like 2 tablespoons. Yeah, I mean, that's small, right? Like that's 2 tablespoons of peanut butter. Like that's a lot. And
I
then
want a
the
fat thumb.
and the 1 teaspoon is or a fingertip is 1 teaspoon.
Yeah. I think that's so helpful. I think truly being very disciplined for at least, 2 weeks, 2 weeks minimum, you know what I mean? Like really being disciplined so that after that, you don't feel like you have to be obsessed and tied to the scale, but you really then have a great understanding and visual and memory. It's memory, you know, you're building your memory of what foods are and the amounts that serve you in your goals for sure.
Yeah, you'll be mind blown, you know, by how little or how much you get.
And this, it's interesting. I saw this video, this image, 30 grams of protein, but when I actually calculated it and went and I was trying to be a specific, I was like, oh, that's not 30 grams. I literally spent an hour doing this and I'm like, okay, that is not 30 grams. But it was interesting because I was thinking, okay, whole fat Greek yogurt. If you do, you know, fat-free Greek yogurt, it's not the same. You're not getting the same profile of fat, protein, and carbs. It's different. So it's learning that even whole fat is healthy. It's good. It's, you know, figuring out what you need because it's changed when it's either low fat, non-fat, whole fat. It's all different. So looking at that, the protein and all of that changes. And then, of course, I have my protein that, you know, I put 2 scoops because I know my protein is 20 grams per, you know, for 2 scoops. But yeah, this was a good idea to see like, what does a grouping, if this is some of my snacks, because these are like basically 300 average to 350 calories. So this could be a good hefty snack. It could be a little less than that. Or if this is like a breakfast, then I could add something to it to hit that 400 to 500 calories per breakfast. You know, I could add something else. So this to me is a good visual. You know, you can obviously take a picture of this and look at the differences, but I think it's just knowledge is power. Understanding what you have, knowledge is power. It gives you confidence. You know, you really know what to choose and go for your liking, what sounds good to you.
And I love that. Really, like, you know, a lot of people would see these calories and be scared of it. And I think we're like trained through diet culture that we see so many infographics and hear like, oh, 100-calorie snack. And really, like 100 calories is not very, like, it's really not going to put a dent in my appetite or my body's needed energy. And so I love that tracking macros, I got to find out like how many calories I need to feel full or to bide me some time, until my next meal. And it's nothing less than 250. Like I need like 250 calories. So when somebody say like, oh, only 100 calories, I'm like, so is all that ends up being for me is I end up eating an extra 100 calories in my day because I've eaten it and then I'm hungry. And then like you said before, then I go end up overeating somewhere else.
Yeah, definitely. And then you want to share on this page real quick?
Sure, this is just like a visual, so you can screenshot it. And these are just like some vegetables and some fruits that carbs. So you can see it goes from low carb to high or carb, less than 5 grams of carbs per cup, which is virtually nothing. You can eat basically as much asparagus, bok choy, celery, zucchini, which is zucchini noodles, mushrooms, lettuce, like for salads and everything. Those are like a give me.
Those are freebies.
Yeah, they're free. They're free. You could not track those and you will not gain weight. But then as you kind of like start moving up the scale, then we have a little bit of more mindfulness, but they are more filling. So you get to see that carrots, this was raw, things like cabbage and squash, like spaghetti squash and things can be very filling and are still very low in carbs, 6 to 10 grams. Broccoli is so filling. Brussels sprouts, like I said earlier, very filling. And all of these are really nutrient rich also. And then as you move up, you start getting into where fruits start coming in. So a little bit higher carbs because of the sugar, but things like peas, corn is on here. Corn is not a vegetable, but but I think it's a good one because I was raised in Ohio that corn was a vegetable. So, but bell peppers, and you start seeing grapefruit, most berries, cantaloupe, cherries, and then as you move further, bananas are pretty high. I don't know why I don't have apples on here. Apples would be probably, depending on the size, but they would be like right in the middle of these last two. Grapes are really higher in sugar too. And then in this last column would be your, rice and potatoes and things like that. But just something to see.
Yeah.
And then these are just some things to think about. Do you want to talk about those?
Yeah, I would say probably the biggest setback when I get, even for me, a family cooking meals, it's when I don't have a plan, I don't meal prep, I don't know what I'm cooking. I've worked a day, I come home or my kids come home and I'm like, I don't have any idea what I'm eating. And so that's when it's like, okay, it's pizza night, or we're ordering out, or we're going out, or we're throwing something together. So I feel like for me, planning ahead and meal prepping my food is so helpful for me to feel like I'm on top of it, and I'm going to have success and not fail. And so even this specifically on, tracking my food and understanding macros, it's planning ahead, entering even the meal I know I'm going to have the night before. So it's almost like I'm setting myself up for success, tracking before I ate, so that I'm not like tracking afterwards, but before, just double checking serving sizes. Cause sometimes I can get, look at it and it gives me a calorie or macro or calorie count, but it's serving size 2, or 1, and I ate a double portion. So I need to make sure I add that in. And then learning how entering sandwiches and salads, it's breaking it down. I've got to put in the bread, I've got to put in the lettuce, the tomato, it's breaking it down individually for me to truly get an idea of what I put into my body. And so the easier that you get used to it, it's you can save some of the familiar foods that you have in my fitness, my Fitness Pal, so that and that's something that we can definitely go over another time or video, because I think it's just kind of getting into it and working it out, and tracking.
Yeah, I love that, just real quick, I know we're kind of going long, but I really hope that this is helping everybody. Enter the known meals the night before. Like if I have my breakfast in there and I've already meal planned for the week and I have my lunch that I'm taking to work and whatever it is, the bar that I love, or I know I'm going to have my protein shake. Like if I put all of that in, then I'm left with like it'll show me in my Fitness Pal how much I have left, how many carbs I have left, how many proteins. And so then I can be like, oh, great, then that's easy. There's no guessing. And the tracking before I eat, like sometimes things are not worthwhile eating. Like I'll be like, oh, that's probably not so bad. And then I put it in and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's 700 calories. It's like, I'd rather find out before than after. So
Make
it
a
just,
better decision or a
yeah.
different choice. Uh-huh. Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's good. And I think ultimately finishing up is that I've got to do this for me. What is my why? That I really I can reference that daily. Like I want to look and feel my best. I want to take charge of my health. I want to lose the extra weight. I want to feel good. Why am I exercising or going to the gym? I think when I put a why to it, like anything, it really makes it meaningful to me. Especially, around the holidays, around eating with other people. If people are like, how come you're not eating that? Or why are you eating that? Or da 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 da. I'm able to confidently say, this is what I'm doing. This is why I'm doing it. I think it really lends to that motivation to stay with it and keep going.
Agree.
And then we just had some extra things at the end that you guys can look at and, take pictures of. And we just found some of these online, just kind of, different ones that meant something to us. But I'm going to stop. Maybe I'll just go through these really quick.
Yeah, because I think if it's on a recording, then they
Mhm.
have to come up, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So even going through again, what does protein do? Carbs do, fat do? Should I be tracking my macros, even the pros and cons, and what really makes sense? You guys can take a picture of this. And then I thought these are some good quality protein sources: meats, poultry, fish, just seeing what they are. This emoji reminds me of a friend, which is hilarious. Fat sources, because sometimes we're just not aware of what some good fat sources, nuts and seeds to oils, and ghee, and things that we haven't tried or started. Maybe you can look at something new to try. And just a quick, like, new to tracking macros. This just gives you like a quick rundown that someone put together that's got some good info in it, really short and sweet.
That's a lot of what we talked about last video. So
It
it's
is.
a
A good little summary. And then I'm going to stop share so
Okay.
that we can answer any questions. So Jen, since you're on, is there anything that you want to follow up with us? And if you want me to stop recording, I can totally stop recording.
I do not.
Okay, did we answer a lot of your questions? Was it helpful?
Yes, very.
Okay, here, I'm gonna stop recording 1 second.